Hello, this is Dr. Eric Potter, Functional MD from Sanctuary Functional Medicine, back for another episode of our Facebook Lives. Again, I appreciate last month that you permitted me to bring a special guest on and delay this talk that I'm doing today in this session so we could spend that time with Darren Vigil from Healthy Exposures last time. This time, though, however, we are going to get back to what I intended to before, was talking about traveling with mold, or actually a better term might be traveling without mold. What we're trying to do is help patients who have mold toxicity to be able to travel, whether it's visiting family, going to a beach vacation, going on some trip, and enjoying life without being weighed down with the fact they may be exposed to mold and get sicker during that vacation time. So let's start with a little bit about mold toxicity and talk for about anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes and give patients, give you, the audience, time to send in questions. So if you have specific questions, please leave them on the Facebook page so that way I can try to answer as many of those as possible. And also remember, this is just advice. This is guidance. This is not diagnosis and therapy. If I'm not sitting in front of you or doing a telemedical visit, which I can do from a distance once patients see us in the office, person face-to-face once, I can do that. Those are medical visits where I am diagnosing, I am treating. But if you're just watching this, this is for educational purposes. So you can learn how to take care of yourself. Even if you're not a patient of Sanctuary, you can know how to potentially avoid mold when you're traveling or any other topic we address. It's educational. So with that in mind, we're going to spend some time talking about during the season of the summer when people are doing a lot of traveling is how do you keep, you worked hard. You have been doing detox therapies. You've remediated your house. You've got a safe place. We've talked in the past Facebook Lives about resafing your home, getting the mold out so you can have a safe place. But now you're feeling a little better and you're thinking, oh, I want to get out of the house. I want to go visit family. I want to go to the beach. I want to go wherever it is, part of the country or out of the country. Is you do have to think. It's not just, oh, let's just hop in a car, let's hop on a plane, and let's just pack our bags and go. You've got to realize that wherever you go, there's a potential for mold exposure. And with that potential mold exposure, you may get sick again. And as we've talked about before, those toxins get in your body. If you're one of those who do not detox well, and once your body's kind of been primed for that, you're probably always going to be a little more sensitive and more at risk from those genetics of getting sick again. So yes, going to that beach house that was remediated improperly from a hurricane the prior year might have mold and it might make you sick. So how do you prevent ruining a vacation or even ruining another few weeks after you get back from the vacation? Coming back from vacations are hard enough as it is. How do you prevent that? Well, it does take a little preparation, a little forethought, and some wisdom, and takes a little time and effort. It's not something that just automatically happens without you trying. So you want to think about wherever you're going, where those places might be, both in general, the climate, the specific place you're staying, whether it's a 1900s bed and breakfast that is smelling musty the moment you walk in, obviously probably not going to be the best choice, or is it a hotel that's just newly remodeled and has clean air rooms, has for the allergy sensitive patients or population that may visit. So you want to think through all those things. You also want to think about where you're going to eat. You're not just going to go somewhere and stay in a hotel, but you've got to eat usually at least 3 meals a day. And if you're going on vacation, you like to eat something besides your average food that you're eating out of your kitchen. So with that, you need to think about restaurants, planning ahead. So it takes extra effort, but it's worth it when you can enjoy that and have a more normal life than you would prior. So with that, let's start with the simple things. What kind of areas of the country might you want to consider not going to, or areas of the world? You want to probably avoid those places that are more humid. if you're looking for a home place to live, build a new home or buy a home, places like Hawaii, pretty much humidity year-round. A lot of places in the coast are going to have higher issues with humidity. So yes, they're going to be a little more at risk for having mold growing in the walls, growing in the restaurants or the places you might stay. Now, that doesn't completely rule those out, but it does mean for those areas you might want to put double work into making sure that if you were to go to Hawaii, that you're getting there and you are at a place where either you're outdoors and not getting exposed to indoor mold, or then again, you may just want to say, hey, let's go to a place that's a little drier. At the very least, you'd want to say, oh, is that hotel or that bed and breakfast been damaged by major storm, hurricanes and so forth in the prior years? So you want to know, just like with a home, you want to know the history of that home. You want to know the history of the hotel. You can ask a few questions. You are the customer and you do have a right to ask a hotel manager, hey, could you tell me a little bit more about this hotel? Has it had water damage? Have you ever had floods? Has it been damaged by major storms? Things like that. Now, with that main area, picking drier places, just because you go to the desert doesn't mean you can't be exposed to mold. If you have indoor plumbing, there's a risk. So even then, you do have to think through later steps by saying, okay, I'm going to this building. Is it a family member's home who you might be able to do, say, an ERMI test or a HERTMI test to test their home for, mail that to them, give them a little present, say, hey, could you test this before I come home for the holidays or before I come for a summer vacation, and look at that. And then oh, yes, it is safe, and they could consider, oh, well, maybe we do need to clean up some, and a lot of times those extended family members find that, oh, they actually feel better when they cleaned mold out of the house, that you were just the only reason they did it was because you were going to visit, but they end up feeling better themselves with allergies or fatigue or sleep. But if it's not a family member, you might be looking at bed and breakfast. Those are a popular thing, or B&Bs, Airbnb type thing. Sometimes they might let you do that ERMI test. However, a lot of them are not going to, because they know, hey, I'm not going to deal with this person who might be difficult or have health problems later and blame me for it. So I'm going to take the person who wants to rent that house for the week without those stipulations. So when you're looking at that, you're going to be careful and find out a little bit about it. And some may just say, no, it's not worth it. We're, find somewhere else. Now, there's enough out there that if you can find someone who will work with you, bed and breakfasts are not ruled out. However, if you can't, those may be places where, especially if they're older buildings, you may not want to stay there. Now, even though hotels, if you're, there's been a small hotel being built probably 100, 200 yards away from our office over the last, 3, 6, 9 months. It's a slow process. If you build a regular home for yourself, that can take 6 to 9 months. But if you're building something as big as even a small hotel, it may be 9, 12, or even 15 months where construction is going up. They're having to do codes, checking inspection before they put the next floor up. Those areas are open to the elements for a lot longer. So yes, there is risk if they're using wood rather than concrete for some of the structure. Mold can develop in those areas. So just because a hotel is new doesn't mean it can't have mold in there. So you still want to think about that, especially if there was storm damage to a hotel later, say a hurricane, or they had flooding. Might be a place that you just mark off the list from the get-go. However, if you figure out, oh, you want to go to part of the country or the world where humidity is not that bad of an issue, you talk to those, you choose a hotel or bed and breakfast that doesn't appear to have mold issues or risk for mold issues. You can also look at a lot of hotels now will have pure rooms or allergy-friendly rooms where they either have an air filter, an air purifier that they run in there 24/7 that will lower VOCs and allergens. Now, often these are not the super high-end that you might want to have in your own home, but they often will suffice for a period of time with a few extra little things you can do once you get there to make that safe enough that you can enjoy that. You may end up taking a little extra binders or glutathione, detox things during that time to be on the safe side, but those allergy-friendly or pure rooms can go a long way. Most hotels will tell you if they have those. They often will include in that they're not using heavy chemicals to do the cleaning. Now you do want a clean room. You do not want germs from the last 100 people that stayed in that room on the last 100 days. But there are natural options that can make that room clean and safe from a cleanliness aspect, a place you'd want to stay, but also a place where it's not going to have so many fumes that you end up getting sick because you're smelling bleach or you're smelling ammonia or smelling anything else they may have used in there. So you can ask about that as well. So at that point, you've found a safe place to go in terms of the area of the country or the world. You've narrowed down a hotel or a bed and breakfast or someplace you're staying, or even going to a family member's house, visiting for the holidays. And then you say, okay, I get there, and I either smell a little bit, or I just want to make sure, once you've been bitten by mold, you want to stay as far away from it as possible. What can you do to give a little extra layer of protection? So just like we've talked to so many about using essential oils, diffusing, using an atomizer, which uses the pure oil, not just the mixed in the water and misting, but this is the pure oil. You could potentially bring your atomizer with you, put in some of the essential oils. There's a variety of ones that have some anti-mold effects. Put that in the room, turn it on, maybe come back a couple hours, 4 hours later, get there a little early, drop it off, go do other things, go eat, whatever. Then come back, and so you've got a layer of that oil in there. You could bring, potentially, there are some air purifiers that are small enough that you can bring with you, some different brands out there that have those. You can put that in to your essential oil atomization. There are some companies that have products where they'll say you can burn a candle, which I wouldn't necessarily burn in a hotel room. So fire alarms, that definitely is going to cause problems. But there are some products where you can put scents in there. Essential oils, to me, are the better and easier because you can plug it in, and I know it gets a good output into a small room, especially a hotel room. You can fill up that with the smell of the oils pretty quickly. Now, with that, you kind of knock those levels down. Yes, I know people who take their own sheets. So they may say, oh, we'll just leave the sheets off the bed and we'll put our own sheets on the bed so they don't have some smells or potential exposure from chemicals there or mold in sheets. That's one option, so a good bit of work, which leads me to something else I'm going to talk about in a minute, another option to completely bypass this altogether. But essential oils, airing things out if you walk in. Now, if you walk in and like, oh goodness, it's overwhelming. If you have that spidey sense with mold where you're getting dizzy or sick, you say, hey, I'm sorry, we can't stay in this room. Do you have another room? Or sometimes you may have to find a different place. So it's helpful to have researched that area if you're going to a city where you can have a backup plan where you might be able to stay. But don't be afraid to say, hey, this room is not going to work. I have environmental allergies, that there's something in this room that's a problem. Because the other thing is, you bring all your stuff in there and there's mold, all your clothes, your luggage. Yes, you do get a measure of contamination, and you're going to want to come back and clean those, whether it's the borax, essential oil, detergents, to get those odors, those VOCs from mold, and potentially the spores themselves from contaminating your clothes and bringing back to your own home. So you want to be careful, not just because you feel bad that week, but because you can cause problems for yourself a little further down the road. So with that, you're into the room, it's safe, you've got your essential oils diffusing, you feel like that's a place you can stay for the 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, 2 weeks that you're going to be on your vacation. Then you're going to okay, we need to eat somewhere. So on vacation, as if you have dealt with mold sensitivity, mold toxicity, or food allergies, leaky gut, oh, hey, you've got a diet, you want to eat healthy, organic as much as possible, low inflammatory diet, avoid processed foods. You can control that a little bit more in your own home turf. However, when you're out and about on a vacation, you've got to think and plan ahead. And you may end up saying, oh, we're going to bring a couple of large coolers with some, at the very least, whether it's gluten-free, organic fruit, gluten-free snacks, things where, at the very least, we know we have something. So if we can't find a gluten-free restaurant that day that we haven't been to 3 times that week already, we have some other options. You may want to look at a place where you can cook in your own kitchen to have at least a meal or two there and not having to eat out all the time. The good news is, though, there are a lot of restaurants that do have healthier choices now. As more people have realized gluten can be a problem for them, there's a lot more gluten-free options. Still have to be careful. Just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean it's automatically healthy. So highly processed foods that are gluten-free are still highly processed foods that are inflammatory. And you don't want something that just throws a bunch of sugar or necessarily a bunch of rice flour, which can have arsenic. Now, on a vacation a few days, getting some rice flour is no big deal. It's just not necessarily something you want to do a lot of on a regular basis. With that, you may want to look ahead on the internet and see what restaurants are out there that are gluten-free where you're going. And also look if it's an old building, historic houses, probably not where you're wanting to be in terms of mold safety. Also, you may want to consider, if it's during a season where you could sit outside, sitting outside, you may be able to eat at that restaurant, whereas sitting inside may not work out for you. So those are some things to consider. And then just the activities you do. You might not do the historic home tours, at least not the inside part. You might want to choose some different options. Some of the places where they have to indoor playgrounds where there's a lot of sweating and there's a lot of moisture. Any places where that going on is potential for mold and exposure. Indoor swimming pools sometimes can have some mold if they've not done a good job of cleaning, or they've got so much chlorine that you have trouble breathing in that location. So thinking about those things. Now, I did also talk about how do you bypass a lot of the hotel choosing aspect. So one thing you might want to consider, and some do, is looking at an RV, a recreation vehicle, where you basically take your hotel room with you. Now, they do have their own issues in terms of VOCs, and you have to work with that. RVs, if they have a leak, they can get mold just as easy as a house does. However, if you take good care of that and you do traveling, then all your sheets, your food, your kitchen, your beds you've taken with you, and that may take a lot of that out of the way. Now, you still have to plan ahead. That takes some extra work. We've not done that as a family. We're thinking about that possibility and trying renting one first before we want to consider buying one down the road someday, and trying a vacation, maybe 1, 2, 3 days at a time, where we do an RV and try to avoid mold, and trying to, rent the RV, diffuse some oils in it for a day ahead of time, make sure it's cleaned out, wiped up, and put our air purifier in there and take it with us. So there's ways you can make your mobile hotel room safer for you. Now, with that, you've made planning, you have chosen your location, chosen where you're staying, RV, hotel, bed and breakfast, place to eat, places to visit. Your next job, enjoy. You are meant to enjoy vacations, but don't enjoy to the point of where you're like, not paying attention, and say, well, I'll just go in, and a little bit of mold exposure is no big deal. If you do get exposed, or you go into a place where, you're just in there for long enough to say, I need to leave. Yes, we often advise our patients to take a little extra glutathione with them. Many of them have been greatly helped by this during the detox process, but it also helps if someone gets a short exposure to take a few extra doses of glutathione, help bind that in the urine so you're peeing those toxins out, limiting the oxidative stress that may occur from them, and getting past that, where instead of ruining the rest of your vacation, you didn't feel good for a couple hours, but then the glutathione helps those symptoms of mold toxicity that you're starting to get to fade away. So those are for the oopses. We've talked about diet. We've talked about traveling. Obviously, if you're taking your own car, you can make sure it's safe. If you're looking at airports or flying, you can look at getting a VOG mask. VOG. There's also, I think it's Cambridge mask, a little more expensive, a few dollars more. It's $30 to $45 range, where you can wear these into places where obviously can't eat through the mask, but if you're going somewhere and just need a little bit of a protection, will often prevent you from being inhaling mold spores and mold toxins or other VOCs in there. Or if you're just traveling and it's flu season, you don't want to get the flu on the plane, it's a good thing to have in your pocket as well. So those are some ways that you can make your travel more fun, but also safer than it could be otherwise when you're dealing with mold toxicity. So hopefully, as many are traveling this summer, not only will you be safe on the road and just driving or flying, but you'll also be safe from mold. So really, again, it's traveling without mold is the goal, not traveling with mold. But traveling with mold toxicity means you have to do a little extra work, but it's all worth it so you can have back to his normal life, that healthier, more abundant life as possible that we work to get our patients towards when they're coming through our programs at Sanctuary Functional Medicine. So if you want to know more about our programs, Stephen is available, 615-815-5941. But if you just want more information about mold or other health topics, our website has a lot of blogs, both things that you can read, and also we're working on our YouTube channel where past Facebook Lives, you can scroll through our Facebook page and see those. We're also trying to put together as much of our videos as possible on YouTube, so you can learn more there from the educational, again, purpose. As I stated before, this is not diagnosing treatment, this is educating so people can have that healthier, more abundant life. So with that, I know this was a change in timing, so not as many people are going to be knowing during the live session that we're on to ask questions, but I do think we have at least one question someone had asked. Will they, the hotel, be honest with you or want the reservation for money? So thank you. That is obviously going to be dependent on who you're talking to. Yes, we live in a fallen world where people are not necessarily going to care whether or not you have a sensitivity to mold. They're just going to care whether or not they get your money and whether or not that you cancel at the last minute and they don't have somebody else to stay in the hotel room and they lose money that night. So it's going to partly depend. If you go to, say, a big event, some sporting event where the whole city is full of hotel rooms, you're probably not going to get much leeway in terms of them saying, oh, hey, yeah, if it doesn't work out, or they're going to say, hey, I don't want to, you probably need to find somewhere else. We've got 20 other people that are going to call in the next 10 minutes to take that hotel room. They may not care. Now, you go into off season, or if you go in somewhere where it's not booked up solid, they may be willing to work with you if you tell them, oh, I'm calling around some different places to see which one are the most likely to be safe from mold. Now, you can just say, nobody's going to really understand mold toxicity, so you can say, oh, I'm sensitive to mold, it makes me feel bad, it has some allergy type symptoms to it. It's just something I can't be around. It'll basically make my vacation kind of ruined or worthless. Now, they may or may not want to tell you the truth. That's why having a few questions like, oh, have you had any flooding? Have you had any storm damage where there had to be repairs done? Have you had major plumbing issues where there was flooding from indoor plumbing? And if the person you're talking to, the receptionist, doesn't know, or if it's out off-site, say, hey, is there a way I could talk to the hotel engineer, somebody who keeps up with it, or at least the manager, and ask them questions? With that, sure, there's going to be people that can lie to you. They can make up stories, but at least if you talk to somebody, they're just saying, well, I have no idea. I just work here. I just worked here for the last year. Or I just worked the night shift. It's not reasonable to expect them to know some of those answers. But trying to talk to either the somebody in charge of the building, the facility, especially if it's very big, they're going to have somebody, or the manager for some of the smaller hotels, or a bed and breakfast, be able to give you that. And it may be that if you working with an Airbnb or a bed and breakfast type situation, you might be able to get them to agree, oh, if I get there and there's mold and I get sick in the room, that I can get a refund, kind of realize that, oh, we can cancel those reservations. It's difficult. I didn't say it was easy. I just said it's possible. But yes, you are dealing with people who you don't know, and first time you ever talk to them on the phone, and whether or not you can trust them. So you have to be able to at least have some general idea of the questions you would ask, so that way you get a sense that if any of those red flags, smoke signals go up, that you may want to say, oh, look elsewhere. Whereas if it's, oh yeah, we have some allergy sensitive rooms, we have some air purifiers, and yeah, we have a standard of low VOC cleaners, that might be something that is worth trying and seeing if you could do stay there in that location. So I think Stephen is over here with me. I think we don't have any more right now, which, like I said, it's a little different, and a lot of you may be traveling right now. But if you come back from traveling and see this, or in a couple of weeks you're planning traveling, or later in the summer, and you leave questions here, we do try to look back, and if there's questions that come up, we will try to answer them later. But otherwise, we hope you have a safe travels. Enjoy your summer, and I think we will call that a day, unless we have something come up before I take another breath. But thank you for joining us with another Facebook Live. This is Dr. Eric Potter, Functional MD at Sanctuary Functional Medicine. Thank you, and again, have a blessed summer.